here, running away from the corruption of Jerusalem, the corruption of the high priest and the other priests. They saw themselves as the sons of light. They want to prepare for the end of days battle against the sons of darkness. They used to pray towards the east. You remember when we said that the synagogue, when we were in Capernaum, the openings of the synagogue are oriented towards Jerusalem, okay, because they pray towards Jerusalem. Over here, no, they pray towards the east because they were waiting for him to come from the east. Okay, they lived a celibate life. It could be that John the Baptist, it could be that John the Baptist was one of these people. I believe personally, Mark, Matthew, and Luke is different than John, as I told you, yes? In John, when you go to John 13, the washing of the feet of the disciples, it's a complete Essene way of thinking. Now, if you open scriptures, it says that the Lord tells two of his disciples, Peter and John, go into the city and follow a man with a water jar.
Yes.
The disciples were not surprised. Okay, he was leading them to the Essene neighborhood. Okay, so these guys lived a celibate life, and over here they did the washing as well before eating of the hands and the feet. Okay, they reclined to eat, of which nowadays we'll understand that later on when we walk in their compound over here, that the Lord never sat in the middle. Last Supper. No way. Okay, they reclined to eat. Okay, that's completely different than sitting down and then you have 6 disciples on one side, 6 disciples on the other side. Yes, that's Leonardo da Vinci. Yes, 14th, 15th century. Absolutely, yes. Okay, he used to paint and write at the same time. Okay, Leonardo did. So we come, of course, if you come from the West, you have that Last Supper thing as the Lord sitting in the midst. Okay, now, the thing is that these guys coming over here, they were divided into groups. Some of them would collect the dates to eat. Some of them were responsible for cleaning. And they had a high priest. How do you know they had a high priest? Because in one of the areas in there, they found 569 coins that attest to what? To the high priest collecting taxes for the rebuilding of the new temple, of which they saw Jerusalem with the temple as a very corrupt place. So they're waiting for him to come and rebuild the third temple, a new one, without any corruption. They saw the Pharisees, that we call Pharisees, I call them Sadducees. Okay, and the Sadducees, Sadducee. Okay, they were so together, of course, against Jesus, against the Essenes, against lots of people. Of course, corruption was so high up in Jerusalem. And this we're going to see when we go to Caiaphas' house later on when we go up to Jerusalem. So some of them were what? Copying down the Bible on leather scrolls. You have these small pots, water and ashes in there with bamboo. You dip it in, and they started, of course, writing these scrolls from right to left. They heard about the invasion of the Romans in 67 AD to Jerusalem. They were so afraid that they will lose their scrolls, their Bible. What did they copy the Bible from? That's the big question. Nowadays, you have more than 150 books talk about the way of life of these scenes over here. Why is that? Because whatever we have nowadays of the whole scriptures, of course, the Old Testament was compiled after they came back from Babylon. It became a book. Before that, it was old scrolls. So, of course, they used to point towards the scrolls, of course, on the scrolls and read it, and later on it became a book. But was it translated from that period or the 250 before Christ Septuagint or the 70 translations that was written in Greek? Okay, so because if you had the old Hebrew language, which is Aramaic, you translate it into Greek, and then you translate it again. That forms a big problem. But at least anyone who could debate with us nowadays that the Bible has been forged, added to, or omitted from, we can say, no, I'm talking about the Old Testament over here. Why is that? Because whatever we have nowadays matches exactly the Dead Sea Scrolls, of which once upon a time we thought that the Aleppo Codex from Aleppo, from Syria, was the oldest, was 1,000 years of age. Okay, 1000 AD, the finding of the Dead Sea Scrolls, of course, 2nd century before Christ, that's the oldest scrolls ever found in the world. Talking about, of course, biblical scrolls. Now, when we talk about these biblical things, we have the whole Bible, but one book is missing. The book of Esther. Esther. Because it does not mention the word God. Okay, that's why they never copy it down. But don't be surprised when I tell you that apocryphal book were found over here, that, like the Scroll of Noah. Okay, I recommend if you download it as a PDF, the Scroll of Enoch, because it talks about Jesus Christ, explicitly and evidently. Okay, the temple scroll that is 28 feet long, the copper scroll that was most probably the treasure scroll that made archaeologists really crazy what's happening over here. They kept on digging and digging in every place over here to look for this treasure. They found nothing. So, in 1947, Israel did not exist yet. One of the boys from the Bedouins that we have seen loses his sheep.
You're right.
He thinks that it's one of these caves. He's so afraid to go in. He picks a stone, he throws it inside that cave to make the sheep come out. Nothing comes out. He hears something breaking. He goes in one of these caves. He finds leather scrolls wrapped with pieces of cloth. He wants to go up to Bethlehem to sell it to a Christian Syriac Aramaic shoemaker. There's no road over here. He goes up to Bethlehem through the shepherd's fields up to Bethlehem, and then he presents it to that shoemaker. He tells him, "Do me a pair of sandals." The shoemaker opens it. He's reading the scroll of Isaiah. He tells the boy, "Whenever you find more, bring me more. Here's 10 pounds. English pounds." He comes back over here. He finds more. He takes it to the shoemaker. Shoemaker doesn't know if it is authentic or not because 1947. He takes it to the Bishop of Jerusalem. He reads it Aramaic. They smuggled it out of the country, taking it all the way to the States where they did DNA, carbon 14.
Yeah.
All this stuff, of course, they found out that it dates to the 2nd century and 1st century before Christ and 1st century AD. Who hears about the story after a year? Formation of the State of Israel, the establishment of the State of Israel by Ben Gurion. He flies to the States, he buys it from the States, brings it over here, and they sit at the Shrine of the Book in Jerusalem. That's how it all, of course, started. But we owe a lot to a Dominican father who hired lots of the Bedouins over here and the people to survey and excavate every inch over here. His name was Father Deveau. He's buried at the premises of St. Stephen's Church, of course, outside of Damascus Gate.